deal with determining trig ratios. So in this question, they're not actually asking you to find an angle. They're just wanting to know what all the ratios are. So I know that sine of an angle is opposite over hypotenuse. Cos of an angle is adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent of an angle is opposite over adjacent. So if I look at this first question here, here's the angle, because they put a little symbol there. And so the opposite side is going to be 27. The adjacent side is going to be 14, but I don't know what the hypotenuse is. So I need to use Pythagoras to find out what the hypotenuse is. So let's do that. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. So C squared is equal to, and it doesn't matter which of these are A or B. I'll just use the opposite side for A. So 27 squared plus 14 squared. Okay, calculator time. So 27 squared is 729 plus 14 squared is 196. So you add those together, you get 925. Is c squared, so c is a plus or minus root of 925. So square root of 925, oh, it doesn't come out even down. So it's just square root of 925. I think you can simplify that because 25 goes into there, so you could call it 5 root 37, plus or minus. Now in this case here, the minus doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It may in other questions, but not in this one. So my hypotenuse is 5 root 37. So my sine is the opposite side, that's 27, over the hypotenuse is 5 root 37. The cosine is adjacent, 14 over 5 root 37, and the tangent opposite is 27 over the adjacent side is 14. I'm feeling fairly good with that, but the only thing that bothers me a little bit is the square root on the bottom, and typically we don't like that. So I would multiply both top and bottom by root 37, and so on the top I'll have 27 root 37, on the bottom I'll have 5, and root 37 times root 37 is root 37 squared, which turns out just to be 37. So on the top I'll have 27 root 37, and on the bottom 5 times that, 35, 185 I think. So that would be my sine, and I would do the same thing with the cosine. Tangent is okay as it sits. Okay, and then this question you do the same thing. Since this one gives you a decimal point as one of the options, rather than maybe keeping this answer as a square root, I might just change this to a decimal point rather than keeping it as a radical. Like on this question, I would do that. Okay, here's another question. They say, given a function value of an acute angle, find the other 5 trig functions. Okay, so that's cosine. And so they want to know what sine is. Sine of beta. Well, I know it's opposite over hypotenuse. And I know that cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So since the hypotenuse is 5 there, it's got to be 5 here too. But I don't know the opposite side. Okay, and tan will be opposite over adjacent. And I know the adjacent side is root 5 from up there. So I'll have a root 5 on the bottom here. So all I'll have to do is figure out what the opposite side is. And I can, to do that, I can use Pythagoras. The only one that really matters where it is the hypotenuse. And the hypotenuse, it says, is 5. So 5 squared is equal to A, it doesn't matter which one I'll use. A I'll use for the adjacent side. So it's root 5 squared plus B squared. So 5 squared is 25. Root 5 squared is just 5. So subtract 5 on both sides. And then B is equal to the square root of 20, plus or minus, which in this case, it says it's an acute angle, and that means all the ratios are going to be positive. Okay, now this root 20 I don't mind, but root 20 is the same as root 4 times root 5, so it's best to simplify that. So that'll be 2 root 5. So that is what the opposite side is. So now I can plug that in everywhere there was an opposite. So right there and right there. So 2 root 5 and tangent 2 root 5. Okay, I don't think I can change that one at all, but this beta, they have a root 5 on top and bottom, so I can cancel those and just call that 2. Now they say they want the other 5 trig ratios. I've given them 2 more, and so you can also give them the reciprocal ratios. Reciprocal of cosine is secant, and that's going to be the reciprocal of this, so 5 over root 5, which I would then multiply by root 5 on the top and bottom, over 5, and these 5's cancel out, so it would just be root 5. Reciprocal of sine is cosecant, and that's going to be the flip of this, so 5 over 2 root 5. And again, I would do the same thing, multiply top and bottom by root 5, and finish that off. And then this last one, cotan theta, is reciprocal of tan, so if this is 2 over 1, then cotan has to be 1 over 2. Okay, one last question. They say game of 4 squares, and down here's the picture I want to look at, and this is the triangle that I want to deal with. So they say using the cosecant function, find the length of the diagonal. Okay, well I could find the length of the diagonal just doing Pythagoras, right? I could just do c squared equals a squared plus b squared, because this diagonal is the hypotenuse. So I could just do 16 squared plus 16 squared equals c squared. So c squared is equal to 256 plus 256. C squared is 512. And what's the square root of 512? Square root of 512. 16 root 2. I guess it doesn't come out even, but if you do it, it'll come out to 16 root 2. But they say to the nearest foot. Oh, so I can get a decimal point out of it. We convert that 22.6, so I'd call it 23. So call it 23 feet. But they say to use the cosecant ratio. Okay, well let's see if we get the same thing. Cosecant theta is a reciprocal of sine, and I wonder, maybe I have to do this in order to get the cosecant ratio. So cosecant reciprocal sine, and sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite. So cosecant is, using the cosecant, find the diagonal. Okay, so the diagonal I don't know, that's the hypotenuse, and the opposite side is, from this angle, is 16. Oh, but they tell me that the angle is 45. Oh, okay. So they're saying the cosecant of 45 degrees is equal to the hypotenuse over 16. I'm with you. Now, what I can do is, I don't have cosecant on my calculator, so I can just reciprocalize that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to reciprocalize both sides. So both sides I get the reciprocal. The reciprocal of cosecant is sine 45, and the reciprocal of hypotenuse over 16 is 16 over the hypotenuse. Okay, now sine of 45 I know is root 2 over 2 from my table, and then I have is equal to 16 over the hypotenuse. So now I just need to solve for the hypotenuse. So I'm going to, you can cross multiply, divide this, or you can multiply both sides by hypotenuse. Morning. So I would call it hypotenuse is equal to 16 times 2 divided by root of 2. So that would be 16 times 2 over root 2. And now I want to multiply top and bottom by root 2. So on the top I'll get 16 times 2 times root 2, sorry I'm getting cramped, over root 2 times root 2 is root of 4, which is 2. So the two 2's will cancel, so the answer will be 16 root 2. Oh, that's the same answer as I got there. And so if I round it to the nearest foot, it is 23. Alright, hope that helps with those questions.